Two families from Orange County living in the same city, only miles apart. One black, one white. First, meet the Greens. Ray, an athletic coach for at-risk youth, his wife STACY, a high school teacher, and their two daughters, 14-year-old Raylyn and 8-year-old Riley. It's breakfast time. Dad Ray is making his signature pancakes.
Sometimes we get creative with pancakes, put chocolate chips in them and all kinds of fun stuff.
Born and raised in the area, Ray and STACY moved to Yorba Linda 17 years ago. They live in a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house, but just outside their door, not too many people look like them. They're the only black family in their neighborhood, and one of a handful in their entire church.
It can be difficult sometimes because, being here, being the only African American family, in the entire block, the entire area, you just don't know how people view you sometimes. Lord, we come before you, thank you for this day, Lord God. We thank you for this food that we're about to receive.
Even before the death of George Floyd, things were tense.
My wife doesn't like me to take walks, late by myself, even though I still do it because I feel like I pay to live here. I should have the freedom to walk around my neighborhood.
Not only is their neighborhood predominantly white, it's also predominantly red. Of the 200 largest cities and counties in California, Yorba Linda ranks as the most conservative. It's one of the few places in the Golden State where Trump flags fly proudly on lawns and porches.
I do have a kind of a greater sense of concern now that the climate has changed in our world. I always felt, a little, I don't want to say out of place, but just different.
2 miles away, Scot Willey and his family are getting ready to start their day. The Willeys aren't big on breakfast, so today it's protein shakes with extra peanut butter. Scott is a police officer. His son Connor, a junior at Cal State Fullerton. His wife Kelly, a 5th grade teacher. Their daughter Casey works in marketing. And last but not least, their dog Baxter, a rescue mutt that pretty much runs the show.
My family means everything to me. It's the reason why I wake up and do my job to the best of my ability to be an example to my kids.
They've lived in Yorba Linda their entire lives, and like the Greens, these last few months have been tense, especially for Kelly.
Each time he leaves the house, I definitely worry. I think the kids worry. I worry that he won't make it home or that he'll get hurt and be in the hospital.
Scott is a captain at Cal State Fullerton PD, responsible for patrolling a campus population of 45,000. In his 23 years on the force, he's seen his fair share of close calls, from students threatening suicide to officers being attacked.
In the last few weeks, we've had one guy with a loaded gun, one with a simulated gun, one that was trying to kill himself by drinking.
He became a cop to help others. 2 decades later, he still gets a rush getting dressed every morning.
This is an awesome responsibility, and we all know that when we're putting this on, and it's that honor and respect.
The transformation from civilian to cop is complete as the gun hits the holster.
You have to always have your head on a swivel.
He's always loved his job, even during the rough patches. But on May 25th, as he watched a white police officer pin George Floyd to the ground, he was shaken to his core.
I watched it a couple of times, and it just got worse and longer and just more horrific.
But it's what happened next that restored his faith in humanity.
Captain Willey.
A phone call from an old friend.
I can't even tell you how important that was. I wish he was here to say that, but You know, it's a pretty awesome thing to have somebody like Ray reach out to you on that night and call and check on me and check on our department and ask how we're doing when I should have been doing the same thing.
Yes, that Ray from Yorba Linda, who just happens to be Scot's former neighbor and close friend. Why did you feel the need to call him?
I knew the backlash that was going to come on police officers in general. And I just know that's not fair, because as a black man, I've always lived, you know, with the perspective of, you know what, I don't want you to put all black people in the same pot, right? We're not all the same. Well, police officers, I'm sure they feel the same way. And I know he's a good man. I know he's a good person.
Coming up, tumultuous times test the strength of this decade-long friendship.
You don't ever know. You don't know how they're going to take it. You never know. It can ruin friendships.
I can't breathe.
On May 25th, the world changed in a matter of minutes. The death of George Floyd, a black man killed while in police custody in Minnesota, sparked a global movement, igniting a sea change in public attitude towards race. As the streets erupted, Ray Green, a black man from Yorba Linda, picked up the phone to check up on an old friend.
I called him because I knew that this was going to make his job harder. I knew it was going to make his job difficult. And I knew that it was going to have an emotional effect on him too.
On the other end of the line, Scot Willey, a white police officer, was overcome with gratitude.
Ray was the first one to call me, wanted to check in actually and ask how we were doing. I got pretty choked up and just said, still gets me.
The two met a decade ago when Ray moved into Scott's old neighborhood, a predominantly white community in Orange County.
I used to see their son Connor outside, you know, shooting hoops and playing ball, and I could just tell he was a kid that was into sports. And so started talking to Connor and got to meet his dad, Scott, and you know, we kind of hit it off.
The family soon became close. Ray and Connor even started a sports podcast together.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
3, 2, 1, we are rolling.
Soon after that, they got an idea for a series of ball games between Scott's police department and the kids in Ray's at-risk youth program.
When I talk to Scott, you know, I get the perspective of not only someone who's a friend, but he's a police officer.
He takes everything in. He doesn't just react to the one side. And he told me stories that I just don't even think about as a white person.
But as close as they've become, when Ray first saw the video of George Floyd, he was worried about the effect it might have on their friendship.
Has it been difficult for you guys to have conversations or to continue the relationship?
At first, I was hesitant because you don't ever know. You don't know how they're going to take it. You never know. It can ruin friendships. And so when I talked to Scott, he said, you know what that officer did was wrong, you know. And once he said that, I knew, okay, all of a sudden I could talk to this guy.
Okay, yeah, shoot, man.
Growing up in Orange County, Ray is no stranger to racism. He knows what it's like to be the only black guy in the room. But he and STACY made a decision early on to stay in the OC, mostly so their girls could get a better education.
It makes you strong. And growing up in that environment, you basically kind of get thick-skinned.
It's a lesson their 14-year-old daughter, Ray Lynn, had to learn as early as preschool.
An incident that really sticks out for me was when there were kids, they were twins, and they told her, we can't play with you because you're brown. And so then the conversation starts at 3.
Even something as simple as hair can trigger awkward conversations.
My 14-year-old was asked, you know, how long can you keep those braids in and how often do you wash your hair?
On the subject of hair, for years, STACY drove an hour and a half just to find a salon that caters to black customers. And while a hair salon may not seem like a big deal, it is. And it's a struggle that many black women endure.
I would say that there's, you know, ignorance as far as people who are not black, not understanding what our hair means to us and how important it is. that people are respectful, about how we wear our hair and what we decide to do to our hair, without making comments like, oh, well, that's an interesting style, like using words that are maybe like a put down.
The James Charles me.
No,
The James Charles me.
But in the age of Black Lives Matter, her conversations with her daughters have taken an even more serious turn.
I still have to make sure that I remind her how to enter a store, and don't rummage through your purse because you don't want anyone to think that you're putting something in your purse.
So in my head, I'm just, going through like, okay, let me just, if I have like a purse or something, anything I need, like money or anything like that, I'll just keep out with me so I don't have to like take it out in the store.
There is plenty of tension among Scott's children too. 20-year-old Connor and 23-year-old Casey have grown up idolizing their dad and his work.
My dad is somebody I've looked up to my whole life. He's taught me a lot about how to respect people, how to live with enthusiasm and kindness towards everybody.
Yeah. But these days, they feel they have to play it down.
I see him as my dad. I don't see him as a police officer. But when people generalize about police officers, I, of course, always think about my dad. He respects everybody.
It's gotten so bad, they've had to take a break from social media.
It's hard to talk about it in these times because I feel like I kind of have to tiptoe around things, and I want to be respectful of both sides, too.
Scott's wife, Kelly, says the last few months have been awful.
He is in a vehicle that, to me, looks like it's a police vehicle. He does always wear a jacket over his shirt so that people can't tell he's an officer, but I do worry that someone will pick up on it or follow him home. And I do worry that, someone might just, out of pure hate, shoot him.
Coming up, the national debate over police misconduct plays out in this longtime friendship.
We're kind of making that assumption that we're all white cops, and that's not true.
I don't believe in the few bad apple thing.
It's Tuesday morning, and Ray Green, an athletic coach from Yorba Linda, is headed to Huntington Beach. It's his first day coaching a summer camp for a local school.
Okay, so let's go ahead and bow our heads. So we're getting them out here early, summertime, getting them out of the beds and, getting them off the laptops and the iPads and the computers and getting them out here to get some exercise and get their minds and their bodies prepared for the upcoming season.
Are we ready?
Yeah!
All right, here we go. We'll see what it is. Okay, we got 10 walking lunges.
But today is about more than just sports. He's been invited to give a speech about the importance of diversity.
When we come together and we play sports, the one thing I love about it is, doesn't matter what you look like, doesn't matter what your background is, doesn't matter if you're rich, doesn't matter if you're poor, doesn't matter if you come from a low-income household, doesn't matter if you live in the hills. All that matters is when you get out here, what are you doing?
Since the death of George Floyd, Ray has been invited to give a lot of these speeches. Living in Orange County, he's often the only black guy around. He knows people mean well, but still, he's cautious about which offers to accept and which ones to avoid.
One of the tricky parts about it, right? You want to make a difference. You want to get out there and show that whatever some of these kids may have been taught, that's not who we are. But you also don't want to be used as a token, right? Okay, guys, awesome job today. I want you guys to give yourselves a round of applause for what we've seen out here today.
Back in Yorba Linda, police officer Scot Willey, Ray's best friend, is getting ready for his shift at Cal State Fullerton PD. He loves his job as much today as he did 23 years ago when he was just a rookie. He's not a religious man, but each morning on his way to work, he says a little prayer.
Just reaching out to the angels out there that protect us.
Ray and Scott have been friends for over a decade, ever since Ray moved into Scott's old neighborhood. But in the last few weeks, both men have seen a seismic shift in their worlds.
When I saw that cop kneeling on that poor man with his hands in his pockets and just that smug look on his face, it was the first time that I realized what Black Lives Matter meant.
He believes all 4 officers involved in the killing of George Floyd should stand trial for what happened.
That can't be allowed, and I think that one moment changed a lot of what we're going to be seeing in law enforcement.
The first change Scot made was to improve himself.
Let me begin with a quote by Marcus Garvey.
Signing up for an online African American history course at Yale University.
I started learning about Juneteenth and Tulsa, Oklahoma, which I didn't know anything about the massacre that happened there, and I don't know why that wasn't taught to me.
In the last few weeks, Ray has gone through an education of his own about where he lives and what he's given up to be there. He moved to Yorba Linda, a predominantly white suburb in the OC, mainly to provide better opportunities for his daughters. Now he's realizing what he's given up.
It's a beautiful place to live. It's a nice area. It's quiet, and like I said, the school districts are great. But you have a concern that there's no one else around that looks like them.
Ray and Scot don't agree on everything. Scot, for example, believes cases of police brutality against black people are emblematic of a few bad apples, not a systemic problem within law enforcement.
We're kind of making that assumption that we're all white cops, and that's not true. There's diversity within police departments as well.
On this one point, they agree to disagree.
I don't believe in the few bad apple thing, but I've been around long enough and I've seen enough to know that there are areas in this country where there's systemic racism, and it starts from the top and it goes all the way down to the bottom. I'm glad to have friends in my life that I can call about these things and have conversations with.
We are getting prepared to see our former neighbors, the Willies. We haven't seen them in a while.
It's been a while since Ray and Stacy Green had a night on the town. Cooped up in their home by COVID-19, tonight will be a welcome change. They're heading out to dinner to their close friend's house, who just happen to be former neighbors. 2 miles away, Scot and Kelly Willey are also gearing up for some fun. It's the first time these two families have been together in months.
Oh, hello.
Hello, hello.
Come on.
This decade-long friendship was sparked by a mutual love of sports. Ray is an athletic coach, Scot is a cop. Both are die-hard Laker fans. Until recently, neither one thought there was anything unusual about their relationship. But these days, a friendship between a black man and a white cop is anything but ordinary.
I honestly think this is kind of weird that we have to sit here and it's kind of a thing that we're all friends and we're making a series out of it, but because it's just, we've been friends for so long, we don't think about stuff like that.
Being here in Orange County and just having different experiences throughout life, it's like when something happens to a black person, there's always an excuse behind it. And I didn't get that from Scot.
I wish more people would do this and just sit and talk and learn from each other.
Take, for example, the hot-button issue of defunding the police. Scot is against it.
I look at my department like we've been defunded for a long time. Well, we need more money. We need to keep better officers. We need to be able to hire better officers.
Ray used to be for it, but after hearing Scot's take, he changed his mind.
He told me what he thought about it, and I'm like, okay, it made me think a different way about it because I got to get his take, and I trust him.
Scot says he's learned a lot from Ray about what it's like to be a black man when a police car shows up.
Because I'm in that car sometimes, and I need to know that if somebody's not feeling comfortable, and I wouldn't think that because I haven't had to.
Stacy and Kelly say the friendship has been a blessing to both families.
They've always been welcoming to our family, and we appreciate that because everywhere we've gone, we haven't always been accepted in that way.
I mean, I'm not shy with Ray. I always ask him, am I the whitest guy that you know? And I ask him the dumbest question sometimes, but I just got to know because I don't know. But I'm not afraid to be naive and say, hey, what's this all about? And
Are you the whitest guy he knows?
Probably.
There is no question the kids are paying attention. We invited them to join the conversation. Connor is a junior at Cal State Fullerton, but it's not easy being the son of a cop at a liberal school.
It's always hard to see somebody you care about being ridiculed, right? I mean, and right now there's a lot of people that are ridiculing all of law enforcement.
Their dad's friendship has had an effect on both Ray Lynn and Casey too.
It inspires me to try to find people outside of my comfort zone to have open conversations with and not just stay in my little bubble.
It's really great that he can be friends with anybody, no matter what they look like, and I think that that's really shown me too, like I can be friends with anybody also.
This is Ray Green, and this is my dad, Scott. This is not, to me, this is not a black man and a cop.
Ray and Scott, friends who embrace their similarities as well as their differences. Two families among millions in America. But as they raise a glass above the warm fire, they, like many, hope cooler heads will prevail.
I just want to wrap it up by saying friendships are built on honesty. Cheers to that, cheers to honesty, cheers to good people, and cheers to great friendship.